Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Roddy Raban, here on Plastic Surgery Uncensored. On today's episode, we're going to be joined by two of my favorite male patients, and we're going to be talking about male plastic surgery. Everything you need to know from A to Z regarding men and the plastic surgeries available to men today. So make sure to tune in to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Roddy Raban, and today we're going to be talking about male plastic surgery. Men in cosmetic surgery. It's a subject that is obviously very near and dear to me, and I really think is underrepresented in the information that's available today. It's no, secret that women have sought the desire to improve their appearance for years, and men are no different. The only difference was the dialogue just doesn't exist. And I think much like other movements, men are kind of realizing that, hey, why shouldn't I improve the way I look? And why shouldn't I have a conversation about it? And they meaning men, are under the same pressures as women as far as aesthetics and desiring to look good. They are also under the same pressures in terms of insecurities and things of that nature. So I am really lucky for today. We have two great guests. These are two of my favorite male patients who have offered to join us and have this dialogue together. So Michael and Rod, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's dive in. Michael, let's start out with you real quick. Tell me what it is that, tell me what you did surgical and what kind of was the impetus for you to consider doing it?
The motivation behind it?
Yeah, so what did you have done and why did you decide to do it?
So I've had a few procedures done. One was a chin augmentation and another one was gynecomastia surgery. And I just recently had that done. So maybe I'll just approach one.
Let's talk about let's do them individually because these are all quite common. I'm going to break it down for more common procedures that men have, but between you guys, these are quite common procedures. So one of them was you had a chin aug. So tell me what prompted that and what you felt when you kind of looked at photos or in the mirror or whatever it was.
So initially, before I came to you, I had done bodybuilding and then I stopped. So I went from kind of like a heavier weight standpoint. And then once I dropped the weight, I noticed I was losing weight in all the right areas except for under my chin. And I couldn't figure out why. And I actually came in to see you for a couple of reasons. I had a question I wanted to approach you about my nose. And I'm very grateful that I actually did my homework and I didn't have to go through a whole lot of other surgeons to get to you. So in that aspect, I'm grateful for that. Because of how conservative and honest that you are, you helped me kind of put things into perspective. And I was able to kind of just cancel out the questions and you answered them efficiently on the nose issue.
What was the issue that you had on your nose, right? Because we talked about your nose and what did we decide?
We did. So
ultimate decision.
So the ultimate decision, that I made was just to leave it. And a lot of that is a testament to how you approach things in your conservative side and how honest you are with your patients. And like I said, for that, I'm grateful because while I haven't been to many cosmetic surgeons, so I can't speak firsthand, I know that there are surgeons out there who will just do the procedure if that's what the client wants, without giving them any sort of input. So, I do very much appreciate that because it helped me, like I said, put things into perspective. So moving on to the chin augmentation, you had noticed that there was a receding chin line and that was causing some excess skin from below. That to improve that, would be weight loss, but then that only helps to a certain extent. By pronouncing the chin a bit more, it will push out the skin. And I mean, being probably, looking into the future too, as time goes on and, the plasticity with the collagen, starts to fade and being as prudent, long-term, having that done now is going to benefit me longer. And it would, like you said, help with the contour of the neck and reduce that kind of area down here that I just couldn't seem to handle with just exercise and diet alone. And I tried, believe me.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good comment. So, I mean, what you presented with is quite common, which is here you are, you're a good looking guy in great shape, super ripped, work out, eat well. I mean, you got it all dialed in. Yet for some reason, when you would look at your profile, you'd notice that, that's kind of odd. I have a little bit of an accumulation of, I think it looks like fat or something under my neck, and I don't really love it. And only until we sat down and kind of really look at things critically did we come to conclude that, yeah, I don't really think it's fat because you're in pretty good shape. I think it's a little bit of accumulation of skin. And that kind of occurs because while you have a good jaw, I think your jaw is a little bit recessed, or your chin. And I really think the best option for you will be a conservative but effective augmentation of your chin, which after speaking, we decided to do. And it's pretty obvious that it was effective because your jawline looks outstanding. And I think that that's a very common procedure for men that consider is, I think men and women are beautiful. Men and women have great jawlines, period. You're never going to find a model online or on a TV or wherever you'll find different kinds of eyes, different kinds of noses, different kinds of lips, but nobody with a weak chin. And so, especially for a man, having a strong jaw is really desirable. And I think that was something that highly accentuated what you had going. So the second surgery you had was what?
So the second surgery was gynecomastia surgery. And the beginning of this spanned back, like, I think almost a decade, like 2010, I noticed, because I did bodybuilding and I competed. And so I developed a little bit from that. And it started like a while back. And over the years, it just kind of, maybe from fat accumulation, but I didn't stop bodybuilding competing until 2016. So it kind of accumulated from that point. And over time, I just got sort of complacent with it, but it still in the back of my mind bothered me, like a inception, like an idea, and it just grew over time, much like the, gynecomastia. And it bothered me to a point where I just didn't want to wear shirts. And it just affected my overall confidence. And, being on part of social media as well, based, like there's that algorithm, you like a fitness photo and you find a fitness shirt that you like. And then before you know it, you're engulfed in the whole fitness, the aesthetics of very aesthetically pleasing things in people. And so it's like that echo chamber. You're constantly surrounded by it. So you think about it more and more. And it just got to the point where I just, let me just get it done and over with. And that's one less thing that I have to worry about. And so I came to you, and because of how well the chin augmentation was and how much, the trust that was built. I'm very happy. I'm on the recovery now and things are going really good.
So you hit on so many key highlights. So gynecomastia, first thing we got to define is, for those who don't know what that is, it's accumulation of some fat or breast tissue in a male chest. Now, people don't know you and they can't see you, but you're super ripped and you're in incredible shape. Yet for some reason, some people have a little bit of accumulation. And what's interesting is what you describe is exactly what other people describe, right? Which is, even though you're in incredible shape, you're probably in better shape than 99% of people, it still affected your psyche and affected your attitude and your confidence. And so gynecomastia surgery is a surgery in which we remove that redundancy of breast tissue and fat that will never go away with diet and exercise, because clearly you would have done it. And the impact is exactly what you're experiencing, which is a renewed or newfound sense of confidence, or just calm or peace. So those two subjects, chins and gynecomastia, are super common. Now we're going to shift gears and let's talk to Rod. Rod, tell me what it was that bothered you and what you decided. You were kind of like, this has been this has been bothering me for a while and I want to fix it. What was that?
So the procedure I had was a septorhinoplasty. So for those of you that don't know, it's a surgery that's functional and also aesthetic. So ultimately, I first identified that I had a breathing issue. So mainly it would affect me when I was asleep. So I'd have trouble sleeping. And then, along with that, I also was a little self-conscious about my nose. My nose had a very predominant hump on it. And my tip was underprojected. So it was always something on the back of my mind. I always kind of considered plastic surgery, but never took the step to even go to a consultation. It really wasn't until I feel like my sleep was being impacted by the deviated septum that I figured, if I'm going to get it corrected, I might as well get the aesthetic portion of it done as well. So I went to a few consultations, and what I liked most about you, Roddy, was that you were very direct and you aimed to really inform me about the procedure. And you didn't. You were very realistic about it, because a lot of surgeons, I won't mention any names, obviously, but they do a lot of imaging, and they show you what it would look like, or what it possibly could look like. But for you, you told me that you don't do that just because you don't want to give any false hope, for one, and for two, it's never going to be exactly like the image itself. So I really like that about you, and also it's a very big decision. Obviously, a nose, it's in the center of your face. So therefore, it's not something that could be hidden. So it's not a surgery I can hide. So I'm very open about it. If people ask, I disclose it. But for the most part, it's really apparent. Like, nobody even asks. It's there, obviously.
Right. And again, this is quite common. I mean, men are often born with noses that are maybe a little bit out of balance with their face. And many, many men don't even consider it until they're functionally an issue. Function meaning what? I just can't breathe. I can't exercise. When I run, it bothers me. When I'm sleeping, it bothers me. And for many, that is the avenue from which to consider, oh, okay, well, aesthetically, I can improve it too. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to overlook the aesthetics because you're a guy. What we want to talk about today is that men deserve, much like women, to have aesthetic concerns and expect outstanding aesthetic outcomes, and can have the right to have the dialogue. And as you said, feel free to discuss it. It's not uncommon that a girl will be talking to her girlfriend and be like, oh, did you get a breast dog? And she'll say, yeah, I had a breast dog. Nobody even flinch. But I don't imagine, although it's changing, that guys are sitting around going, hey, did you do your nose? And a guy'd be like, yeah, I did my rhinoplasty. I couldn't breathe and I wanted it looking better. It's becoming better, but until we have these conversations and more people like Michael and you are just like, yeah, I did these surgeries and I love it and I feel great, that it'll get a little bit better, because there's always people in the forefront and then there's always people in the back. In the forefront are the guys like you who come out and have the conversation. And in the back are the people who are like, okay, I guess it's okay. So I want to change gears and talk about, the social media, the images, the expectation, and then the subsequent self-consciousness that men have, just like girls. And so, Michael, talk to me about, you kind of alluded to it, which is, obviously as a bodybuilder, my God, you have a lot more expectations in terms of what you demand from your physique. But you kind of touched on it with the gynecomastia, and that it was starting to make you feel like, I don't know, I have this amazing physique, but I don't necessarily know I want to take my shirt off.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that a little bit in terms of how your chin or your chest made you self-conscious? And then these images, you kind of alluded to it from, other guys, most of which are Photoshop, but nevertheless, and then how that impacted your thoughts.
I like to think it's all Photoshop.
I can tell you, because I do this for a living, the overwhelming majority of things are Photoshop. Yeah. I mean, nobody walks in with a straight nose. Nobody has a perfectly chiseled body. I mean, it just isn't, just not human.
Yeah, and especially apps with the filters on them nowadays.
Sure.
It's like
you're tan, you rip.
Yeah. So yeah, I understand. So with the gynecomastia, being involved in a very kind of aesthetically desired, like body frame type oriented sport, you're constantly looking, and this is like through the bodybuilding. I'm trying to think of like the residual effects from bodybuilding and how that played a part. Constantly looking at your body and shaping it like, like a sculptor, right? Like an artist, and trying to, okay, well, I need a little bit more here, a little bit more there. I need to carve here. And maybe the residual effects of that over time kind of maybe just had me looking more. It's one of those things where it's probably, I noticed it more than other people.
Sure.
You know?
That's the whole point of things that make us self-conscious. The whole point of it is it affects us from the inside out, right? It makes us change the way we behave in terms of the way we interact with people. It doesn't matter if it's small or minor or major, it's still impacting us. Did you have any, do you think that there's a taboo or a stigma on men having surgery? Do you think there still is a taboo?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think that way because of the conversation. Look, in terms of my interpersonal, like immediate kind of like circle of friends, it's relatively quite small. It's very exclusive. I mean, relatively to others, maybe who have a larger kind of social pipeline of friends. But in terms of like interactions with people, conversations, I do hear cosmetic surgery more so in the ether with women than I do with men. So, I mean, that has to be kind of like evidence that there's either a stigma or it's taboo for men to talk about it. And with gynecomastia in the bodybuilding industry, well, I know other bodybuilders, so it's not as taboo there, and there's a kind of a network there. So more people are likely to talk about it because of the network that I'm in with that, and how common it is with bodybuilders and how it could be a side effect, especially if you're not a natural bodybuilder.
Right. And so, I mean, I think that's really the point, is that there is still a taboo and still a stigma. Rod, when you were thinking of doing your nose, did you feel like there was a stigma? Did you feel were you self-conscious about the fact that you were having a rhinoplasty, although there was a functional component? Obviously, you guys are pushing the envelope because you're here having a conversation, which I highly commend you, because it's easy to get women to come talk, but it's not so easy to get men to talk. What was did you feel like there was a stigma or fear?
Yes, of course. I think there's a very much so stigma with male plastic surgery. I just feel like you said, it's just more, more common amongst women, and they're more open to speaking about it. So with men, I mean, you don't go around hearing men telling other men, oh, I got my nose done, or I got my ears pinned, or, just different surgeries. I just feel like speaking about it might make some men who don't have that self-confidence feel like it makes them less of a man because they went that route. I don't feel that way, but I think that might be the stigma that comes along with it, just because it's so common amongst women.
No, gosh, I mean, I can't tell you how important that conversation is. I think, it definitely is a huge part of the hurdle for men. It's not financial, it's not pain, it's not time off work. Is it, like you said, does it make me less of a man? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I really want to kind of ratchet this thing down, because I think that's really where we're going to break ground today, is trying to help that guy that's sitting at home who kind of feels embarrassed that, hey, I don't like my big ears or whatnot. And you guys are going to kind of help them understand that there's nothing wrong with that. We'll be back here in a minute to continue on with Plastic Surgery Uncensored with my two guests. Welcome back to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We're having a deeper dive, a deeper conversation with two of my favorite male patients. We're having a conversation that I think is kind of long overdue, and frankly doesn't get had that often, and partly because there aren't guys that are as courageous to do it. So what we were talking about, I think the bottom line is that I don't think there's a lack of information. I think men know what procedures are out there. What are they? Ear pinning, brows, eyelids, chin, nose, gynecomastia, liposuction. There are a ton of procedures that benefit men. And today with the internet and Instagram, there's no shortage of people who know about it. I think the greatest obstacle with men is the stigma and the taboo and the being embarrassed that someone would judge them. So we were talking about it a little bit. Rod, what do you think is, how did you, gosh, there's so many ways I want to ask it, but so you said that there was definitely some stigma about it. How do you think this conversation would have helped you? Let's say you were outside, you were watching this. What would you tell someone who's listening as to what they need, how to deal with that aspect?
Well, first of all, it comes with being in a healthy mental state of mind before even considering plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery, um, you know, it fix that. It's not going to make you a happier person. For me, it helped my confidence, but I was happy before. I was in a healthy state of mind. But overall, I feel like the whole experience, it made me a more patient person just because the healing process is, it's a long healing process. And I was a very impatient person before, and this drove me to be a lot more patient, and it also helped my confidence. As far as a stigma goes, I feel like the more people that speak about it, it's really gonna help. Like this session right here, I feel it's really helpful for those that are considering it because we're coming out and stepping forward and speaking about it. The more and more this happens, I feel like the more and more men would be open to speaking about it and even considering it and start going to consultations and taking that next step forward.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, how does anything happen? I mean, how did civil awareness come? How does it Me Too movement? I mean, everything comes from discussing it and talking over and over again. And I definitely think this dialogue with you guys is making a big difference. Michael, what recommendation do you have to somebody there's a guy who's listening to this segment, perhaps he is contemplating something irrespective of what it is. What steps would you tell him to take? What's the first step that you recommend to someone considering plastic surgery as a guy?
Well, I kind of want to touch on what Rod said because it kind of hit home a little bit with what I was thinking about in terms of like putting things into perspective. And I mentioned that when I went and saw you and how you kind of helped to narrow things down and being in the right frame of mind. It's very easy to get lost in the whole social media aspect of things. And if you're unhappy or if there's some underlying issue going on, I think that's something that you should definitely consider or spend some time, some thought, questioning like what's leading you to go get cosmetic surgery and what other issues are going on. Because if you're not happy, what's causing you that unhappiness in the beginning? Cosmetic surgery may not help it, and then it might lead to excess, and you're just masking something that it may not solve. So putting things into perspective is definitely one thing. And saying that the reason why I got the procedures that I did was because of how it was affecting me, my confidence. I was happy before, I definitely was. It's just, it's like, why would I need to put up with it when I can just get it done and out of the way? And like I said, that's one less thing that I have to worry about. And it's definitely improved my confidence. I mean, like I said, I just got the gynecomastia surgery done and I'm ecstatic about the results. And I mean, I just can't wait to go and like shopping for shirts, And
I mean, that's amazing, right? Just think about how 2 hours of life can liberate you from something. And I think both of you hit it on the head, which is not only pertains to men, by the way. What you said, Rod, is very true about all plastic surgery, right? You want to do plastic surgery when your platform, your basis is solid, yet you have something in particular very distinctive that bothers you that can be fixed to take an already very good place of mind and take it to a better place. That's very different than I'm an overall bad place. I hope this rhinoplasty or this ear pinning makes me happier. Those are completely different. And what's clear amongst both of you and what you're suggesting to people listening is if you're in general a happy person, things are good, there's something that bothers you and you have the means and the ability to fix it, it will most likely, when done correctly, bring you increased happiness. And if by chance you're just generally unhappy, and that may be to a number of reasons, and you feel as though maybe by fixing something on your face or body, it'll make you happy, it's very unlikely to do that. And what you guys talked about is basically what we've known from the beginning, which is plastic surgery doesn't make you happy. It only makes a happy person happier.
Yeah,
so, excellent. Definitely. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm honored that you guys came on. It's easy for me to get my female patients and guests to come on. It's effortless. But I know that both of you, I asked you, I reached out to you, and you both were like, yeah, I'll do it. And I think it takes a lot of courage because at the end of the day, as we discussed, guys just generally rather just keep it to themselves and move on. But if nobody begins that conversation, then nothing ever changes. So greatly appreciate it. And hopefully we'll continue to have this dialogue. I look forward to seeing both of you in the future. And I'm glad that you're both happy, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't happy. So I like that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Rod,
Thank you.
Michael, have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Thanks for joining another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We look forward to hearing you guys, look forward to having you listen next week. As always, I'm sure whatever we're talking about will be just as interesting as this week. All right, thank you so much for joining me on Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Looking forward to having you next week. And as always, I'm sure next week's topics will be as interesting as this week's. So make sure to tune in. Thank you so much.